meeting people where they are. I think that's a huge part of hospitality, making them feel comfortable, making them not feel like, oh, this is so big and this is daunting. Like we talk about that day in and day out. And that's really been a hallmark of, our service.
Alex Racioppi. He is the founder and the CEO of KitchenSync. What's KitchenSync, Alex?
Thanks for having me.
KitchenSync. KitchenSync is it's plug and play finance department. People are really struggling right now to staff up these departments in their restaurant groups, right? You start to scale, you need another bookkeeper, you need another accountant. You take all that off the table. Just hire us per location, take care of all your financial reporting, accounts payable, cash flow management, basically like a business partner in a box.
When did you find out this was a pain for the restaurant industry?
Yeah, it's good story on this one.
So I used to work in private equity. That's what I did out of college. I worked for a big firm called Platinum Equity. And my job was to call up business owners all the time and see if they want to sell their businesses. So every day, like 50 calls, talking to business owners, asking them questions about their financials, about how they grew their business, all this sort of stuff. About 5 years into that, my parents get divorced. My mom starts dating a chef. He's got a 50-seat restaurant in Boston. I meet him, go through my same speech, ask him questions about his business. How are your financials? How are things going? No answers. He knew nothing about any of the business aspects of what he was doing, right? I mean, this guy, Restaurant Depot in the morning, show up at the restaurant, cook all day, get home at 4 o'clock in the morning, pass out on the couch. Same sort of cycle, looking at his bank account, trying to figure out, whether the business was working or not. So that sort of tipped me off on the idea, right? Like there's a lot of people out here like this that they don't have the financial wherewithal. They don't have the background. They're busy, right? It's not that he didn't want to know. It's that he just didn't have the resources, right? Didn't have the experience. So that's kind of, when I started, it was just really consulting. It was consulting with him, and then he introduced me to a bunch of other people kind of in that area, similar profiles, chef-driven restaurants, and I just started helping them. I hired a bookkeeper. That wasn't my background. More of a finance person, and just consulting with these people. And then I started to realize, man, there's a real business in here. There's a ton of data that needs to get processed. We can do this much more efficiently. We can start to automate a bunch of this, but it's been a 10-year journey. This doesn't happen overnight, right? So, it was really understanding the problem. Then we started to move up market, right? It's tough to build a business when you're just focused on the single unit kind of independent guys. There's still a lot of churn in that, in that segment, right? It's tough. So today, when you look at our business, it's a lot of 3 to 30 location restaurant groups. That's kind of where we specialize today. We'll still take a lot of one-off, restaurants, people with those growth aspirations. It's a nice fit for us. But yeah, that's kind of the backstory on it.
When you're meeting with potential clients, what are you learning? What's the pain points in this industry right now?
So something kind of crazy is happening right now. So in the US, the accounting profession is losing hundreds of thousands of people a year, right? So people aren't coming out of school getting into this. With AI and with a lot of automation, the writing's on the wall for this profession, right? So you don't have a lot of kids just coming out being I want to be an accountant. I want to process data. So when you're in a restaurant group environment, right, you've got pretty low margins in each of your stores. You're trying to funnel money up to your corporate office, right? You don't have a huge budget to attract the talent that's remaining, in this space in finance, right? So what we're finding is that people just don't have anyone to do the job, right? So even if you want to hire your own team internally, you can't find those people. And if you do, they either don't have the experience, or maybe they're way too expensive. They have too much experience. And what you end up doing is, you hire that guy who's maybe bookkeeper level, right? And you want him to be your CFO, and that's not going to happen. You can't afford both. Or you hire a CFO, and you're man, I need somebody to do the data processing, and now you're wasting money on that guy, who's just spending all his time doing something very rote and mundane. So what's nice about our platform is you get the economies of scale where, we've got people at every level that do the work. And now that we're automating, we're just bringing the price down and down and down. And the insights are getting better and they're getting faster. So we're using AI in every process within the company. And now, we're serving up the AI tools right within our platform. So the customer can be, asking questions about their books, getting insights generated for them. But the focus for us is not just bookkeeping, right? I don't want to stick a P&L on the desk of a chef and be hey, figure it out, right? we're breaking it down to get the insights out. So we want to give them the answers to the test. That's the difference between us and some of the other like solutions out there, right? Where it's like you're creating work for the client. We don't want to do that. It's all about just what do I need to do? You got 100 problems you can solve in a restaurant on any given day. How do we help them prioritize? Based on the financial impact of like this is what you need to worry about, right? So that's been the focus of the business.